most dangerous man in the world is not the one with the biggest army. It's not the billionaire with the power to buy governments. It's the man who can walk alone and not flinch. A man who does not need anyone. He is a ghost to society's chains. You can't manipulate him with fear because he is not afraid to lose anything. You can't bribe him with comfort because he has learned to live without it. You can't shame him with public opinion because he does not live for applause. This man is free. And freedom, real freedom, terrifies the world. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose." He understood something most men today have forgotten. The ability to be self-contained, to be sovereign, is the ultimate weapon. Society doesn't fear the obedient man. He is predictable. He bends. He follows. He depends. Society fears the man who no longer depends, because the man who doesn't need approval, attention, or validation cannot be controlled. Here's the hard truth. Modern life is engineered to keep you dependent. Dependent on your phone for distraction. Dependent on corporations for convenience. Dependent on strangers on the internet to tell you your life is worth something. And while everyone else is plugged into the same matrix of dependence, a man who chooses solitude, mastery, and self-sufficiency becomes an anomaly. He becomes a threat not because he is violent, but because he is untouchable. Friedrich Nietzsche described this archetype as the Übermensch, the man who rises above the herd, the one who walks a lonely path of self-overcoming. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. He wrote, "If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." Read that again. Owning yourself. Most people never do. If you're honest, you might realize how much of your life is lived for other people. You buy things to impress people you don't respect. You hold your tongue because you're terrified of being judged. You scroll endlessly because silence feels unbearable. And every time you do that, the world owns a piece of you. But the man who doesn't need anyone reclaims that ownership. He can walk away from a crowd without guilt. He can say no without explanation. He can face a room full of doubters and still move according to his own compass. This is not about isolation or misanthropy. It is about sovereignty. The ability to live in society without being owned by it. When you cultivate this independence, you rise above manipulation. You stop being baited by cheap dopamine. You stop chasing respect and start commanding it. Comment this right now. I don't chase respect, I command it. And if this is hitting you in the chest right now, if a part of you is waking up to the truth that you have been living half-owned, like this video and subscribe, because what comes next will break the chains you didn't even know you were wearing. Because in the next part, we'll dive into why society desperately needs you dependent and how to start walking the path toward becoming the man who can stand completely alone. Here's the first thing you need to understand. A man who doesn't need anyone is dangerous because he is uncorruptible. Governments, corporations, and social structures thrive on compliance. The modern world wants you docile, comfortable, distracted. It wants you to follow trends, obey rules, and stay in line. It wants your attention locked on glowing screens, so your spirit forgets it was ever meant to be free. The independent man, the one who can live without applause, without luxury, without the herd, disrupts this system. He does not buy things he doesn't need. He does not panic when the crowd panics. He does not play their social games. Society's power is an illusion held up by mass participation. The moment enough individuals step outside the game collapses. Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "A man should be upright, not kept upright. Most men are kept upright by validation, attention, and other people's opinions. The man who stands without a crutch terrifies the system because he does not play by its rules. And that's why society will do everything to break your independence before it ever forms. It will tell you solitude is loneliness. It will tell you silence is boring. It will tell you self-reliance is selfish. It will drown you in distractions so you never hear your own voice. Because the second you hear it, the second you realize you don't need the world to hold you up, you begin to take back your power. Step 1. Sever the strings. If you want to become the man who doesn't need anyone, the first step is this. Identify and cut the invisible strings that control you. What are strings? They are dependencies, habits, attachments, and fears that keep you owned by other people's opinions and systems. If you can't go a day without checking your phone, that's a string. If you can't go a week without social validation, that's a string. If you can't say no because you're terrified someone might not like you, that's a string. Each string is a little leash, and the world tugs on them constantly. Your mission is to start cutting one string at a time. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot command himself must obey." Most men live as slaves because they can't command themselves. Their impulses, their addictions, their need for approval, that is the real prison. Here's a simple but brutal exercise. Sit alone in silence for 1 hour. No phone, no music, no distractions. Watch how uncomfortable you feel. Watch the panic rise in your chest, the itch to grab your phone, to do something. That is dependence screaming. That is the string pulling. And if you can sit through it, if you can learn to be comfortable in that silence, you are already becoming dangerous. Because the man who can be alone, who can sit with his own thoughts, cannot be easily manipulated. Now, here's the beauty of severing these strings. Once you stop needing, you start choosing. When you are free from addiction to attention, every decision you make becomes yours alone. You don't eat to impress. You don't dress to fit in. You don't speak to please. You move with intention, and people can feel it. They can sense that you are not a beggar for respect. You embody it. That is why women admire the independent man. That is why men respect him even if they envy him. That is why society whispers about him but can never control him. Because he has taken the first step toward becoming untouchable. He cut the strings. Comment this right now. I cut the strings, I am untouchable. And if this is resonating, hit the like button and subscribe, because in the next part, I'm going to reveal step 2, how to build inner strength so powerful that the world has no leverage over you. This is where we turn solitude into power, and power into freedom. Once you've started cutting the strings, you face the next challenge, the void. When you remove the distractions, the noise, the constant social stimulation, you are left alone with yourself. And here is the terrifying truth. Most men can't stand themselves. They've spent their lives avoiding their own reflection. They've buried their insecurities under entertainment and validation. They've hidden from their weakness by drowning it in distraction. But the man who doesn't need anyone must go through the void, not around it. Because freedom without inner strength is just isolation. If you want to be untouchable, you must fortify the inside. You must become the kind of man who carries his own kingdom within his chest. Step 2. Build the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that cannot be breached by external chaos. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Here's the formula. Mental sovereignty first, external freedom second. If your mind is weak, solitude will crush you. If your mind is strong, solitude will forge you. So how do you build this inner citadel? Face discomfort daily. Stop protecting yourself from life. Do hard things deliberately. Lift heavy weights, take cold showers, sit in the silence you've been avoiding. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your training ground. Master your thoughts. Most men are prisoners of their own minds. They replay mistakes, fear the future, and obsess over opinions that don't matter. Start observing your thoughts instead of obeying them. Journal, meditate, learn to see which thoughts serve you and which thoughts enslave you. Confront your shadow. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Look at the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, your insecurities, your anger, your envy. The man who can face his shadow becomes whole. The man who avoids it becomes a puppet of it. When you do this work, something profound happens. You stop flinching. You stop panicking when plans fall apart. You stop being thrown off balance when someone criticizes you. You stop craving the constant reassurance of the crowd. Because you have built an inner citadel that no one can storm. The independent man does not become powerful by controlling others. He becomes powerful by mastering himself. Schopenhauer once said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone. And if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free." The man who can walk through life with nothing but his inner strength is a man who is immune to the world's manipulation. Here's an exercise to start building that unshakable core. Every morning, before touching your phone, sit in silence for 10 minutes. Ask yourself, what would I do today if I needed no one's approval? Write it down. Live that day by that answer. Every day you live this way, your spine straightens, your energy changes. People feel it in the room when you enter. And soon, something fascinating happens. Opportunities, respect, and influence start chasing you because the world is drawn to the man who needs nothing from it. Comment this right now. My mind is my fortress. I am untouchable. And if this is hitting you, subscribe and like this video, because in the final part, I'm going to reveal step 3. How to turn your independence into real-world power and become a living example of the man society cannot control. This is where the journey shifts from internal mastery to external influence. You've cut the strings. You've built your inner citadel. Now comes the final step, turning inner sovereignty into external influence. Because the man who doesn't need anyone isn't meant to hide in the mountains forever. True independence isn't about escape, it's about walking back into the world on your own terms. Step 3. Move like a king among men. The ultimate expression of freedom is to live in the world while remaining untouched by its chains. Not as a recluse, but as a sovereign. A king doesn't beg for respect. He commands it with his presence, his decisions, and his actions. And that's exactly what the independent man does. Here's how. Live by principle, not popularity. Most people live by trends. Their beliefs, their opinions, even their morality shifts with the crowd. The sovereign man is different. He builds a personal code and lives by it relentlessly. If you value truth, you speak it even when it costs you. If you value excellence, you pursue it without shortcuts. If you value freedom, you reject every chain, no matter how golden. People respect men who stand for something because most people stand for nothing. Choose association. Don't chase it. When you don't need anyone, every relationship becomes a choice, not a lifeline. You don't chase friends, you attract allies. You don't beg for love, you inspire loyalty. You move through the world as a man who can walk away at any time. And paradoxically, this makes people want to follow you more. Nietzsche hinted at this dynamic when he wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Once you own yourself, people sense it, and ownership of self is magnetic. Turn solitude into creation. Independence is not just a defensive weapon, it's a creative force. When you're free from the noise, you gain clarity, and that clarity allows you to build, lead, and create. History's greatest disruptors, philosophers, inventors, warriors, leaders, were all men who could stand apart from the herd long enough to bring something new into the world. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while journaling alone in his tent. Nietzsche walked alone in the mountains while writing ideas that would outlive him. Every man who ever changed the world first mastered himself. And here's the paradox. The man who needs no one often ends up with more power, respect, and influence than anyone else. Because he doesn't play the world's game, the world starts playing his. This is why society secretly fears and admires the man who doesn't need it. He is a mirror. He exposes the dependence, fear, and weakness in everyone else simply by existing. And if you are willing to walk this path, to cut the strings, to build your inner citadel, and to carry your independence into the world, you become unstoppable. Here's the final affirmation I want you to comment right now. I move like a king. I own myself. I am untouchable. If this video hits you like a wake-up call, subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because this is not just a video. This is the start of your rebirth. A man society cannot control. A man who cannot be broken. A man who needs no one, and therefore can have everything. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. It is in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose. So choose it. Step off the leash. Own yourself, and the world will follow.